Well, welcome everybody learning from home. It is, as you can see, absolutely bloody cold up here in Stockholm in Sweden. As you can see by Madeleine, we are covered in snow. We're dumping the snow. It's going to be minus 15, minus 20. I don't know how cold it's going to get, but it's going to be bloody cold. So how are you both? How are you keeping warm? Phil, you seem to be pretty warm over there, but start from you. Give us some warmth, but then before we go back to the cold. Phil, how's it going?
Thank you. Been very good. Thank you. Celebrated Australia Day on Tuesday by
Awesome.
and we had some snow here earlier in the week. All disappeared, just full of mud everywhere here now. That's us.
Fantastic.
Well,
Madeleine,
I would say a bit differently.
You're in the Alps at the moment, Madeleine. So
yeah, it seems like it. It's amazing. We have like 3 decimeters of snow and I think 20 minus this weekend. So I've stashed up on wood to keep warm in the house.
People in my family always in Australia always say, "Oh, I want to come to Sweden and see the snow," and it's like it's such a shame that because of these restrictions and everything else that this is the year to come. But as I suppose me being non-native Swede, the novelty wears off very fast because the cold is not fun being outdoors. So it's snow looks great, but everybody, once you've seen it, putting up with minus 20 is not fun. So look at the photos.
As you can see by the looks of Madeleine, who's actually outside in it at the moment.
Exactly. So we've got a special announcement in Leading From Home today, because before we start with today's episode, we're actually going to have a grand official opening of something which Madeleine has been savouring from last week. So Madeleine, over to you to car studio number 1.
I know, I just have to brag. I love my car. And you urged me to throw a snowball sort of as a...
Christen it, exactly.
Christening at it. So I will actually take some snow. Oh, God, it's cold. And it's so cold. So I hereby christen my car to Lavender Dragon. Oh, good God.
Like Lavender Dragon. May the Volvo be with you, especially in this weather. So I have to ask you though, Madeleine, is it 4-wheel drive?
Yeah, it is. You need to have...
Yeah, exactly. Good. Otherwise, you'll be skating off onto the ice, and Lavender Dragon will be a lavender boat very soon. But awesome. Yeah, so we've done the official christening of a car on the podcast. It's a world first.
Yep.
That's it. Get inside in the wall.
Yeah, so jump in the studio, Madeleine, before we freeze you out, and then you won't be able to talk at all.
I think I will, to be honest. I will jump inside.
Well, Madeleine wakes, so we're back in. We're going to introduce today's topic because it's a topic which is, I'm getting super hot now, and so I'm going to open up with some, get away this jacket, and then get back into today's topic, which is about mindset, mental. I don't say mental fatigue or mental strength, but just basically mindset, because it's a taboo which has been not talked about many years, I suppose, in the past, especially with our parents' generation, or mine anyway. But with the lockdown and with Corona and people not socializing, it's no surprise that people are struggling with some type of mental stress, sadness, frustration, what do you call it? Or some type of mental stress. So this episode is going to be about us talking about habits to prevent it, but also to manage it, and importantly to have some positive mental strategies, because I've definitely gone through the ups and downs in the past, and I've gone through a lot of advice and a lot of helpful strategies. Madeleine's going to talk about some stuff that you got some tips that you help with your super happy team, and Phil, being the expert of people coaching, this is your job. So we've got all bases covered. So let's open up with I don't want to label it as in terms of like a mental or mind. Let's talk about positive mental strategies. So Phil, do you want to open up things in terms of what's your reflections in terms of what are some helpful strategies, and I suppose how to tackle the subject that people are facing at the moment?
Thank you. So I guess where we start is through leadership, and the leaders at the top of the organization set the tone for the rest of the business. I'm very pleased that we have a leader whose one of their key catchphrases is "It's okay to not be okay." It's okay to not be okay, and she basically sends that signal through to the rest of the organization that if you're not feeling okay, that's okay. That is actually part and parcel of the way it is at the moment, and it's okay to talk about it. I think at a much more practical level within the organization as well, there's a recognition of the need for mental first aiders. So what's been put in place are a super team of people who are trained to listen. And that, I think, in 2021 is just a wonderful practical step. You don't need first aiders, but you do need people remotely who have that ability to listen and have got the skills to take that on board. And it's something I'm delighted to say that we've done within our business. So that's a couple of tips that I'm going to start off with.
And that's really awesome to hear, because say you work for a global organization, and if these big global organizations are doing it, there's basically no excuse for the small or the biggest ones to say that, oh, they can do it because they're small, because that's rubbish. Because now, as I say, Phil, you work for a global organization that has offices around the world that big and small, these type of things, you need to be adaptable and to have support to your teams and to your managers, because these are brand new times and people left alone to solve their issues isn't good for anybody. So, Madeleine, talking with what Phil's been saying, with you being a leader, with really needing to be listening to your team, how have you adapted, and what are some of the things that you support your team with, having a positive and strong mindset with these tough times?
I think it's okay not to be okay is one of the key things, which I tend to echo the entire time. It is okay not to be okay. It's okay to have a shitty day. Please do share it. And we are here to listen, because we do work as a team together. I think that's one of the key things. Be gentle, be kind, because it's you who's going to need it the next day. And I just want to highlight, I mean, I got so much love from my team in terms of, for me as a leader, that it's okay for me not to be okay. Yeah. We are here for you as well. You're a person just like anyone else. And if you want to share, if you need anything, we are here for you. And for me, that just warms my heart, because as a leader, it's not always easy. You go through things personally, privately, as well as professionally. And you can also have shitty days. And it's just very nice to have a team that you can rely on. That's fantastic.
That's a super good point, which we haven't talked about too much in the episode. And Phil, I'd like to throw you into the deep end here, because it's always about, we've been teaching people, leaders, how to look after their team and to do these things. But how can people look after the leaders? Because as Madeleine says, they're supposed to expect it to always be the brave ones to be supporting the team and always listen to help and to do everything else. But the leaders they're people. They have bad days. They have struggles, and it's harder for an employee to say to the manager, "Oh, are you okay?" because of the hierarchy and this type of thing. So, what can employees or other people help their leader flipping around to be with mental struggles, or be a caring, supportive person, as Madeleine's been saying?
It's a great question, and again, unsurprisingly, completely unprepared.
This is a podcast to say everything goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's this loneliness piece has certainly been something that I've been working with, and again, the company has been providing some one-on-one support. I've been providing that support for leaders because that recognition of it being a very lonely situation. I think specifically you're saying, how do I give that feedback up in the organization? And you're right. I mean, it's down to the quality of the relationship. I think if there is an expectation of a behavior, then I think that the key thing is to be as objective as possible. And today I noticed you not as bubbly as you normally are, or today I noticed a little difference, and almost just then create that pause, that space. And if someone wants to talk about it, that you've invited that opportunity for a response. Yeah. And if they don't, you've still noticed it, and they've noticed that you've noticed. And and I think that could be enough in itself. Yeah. But so it's the respect for sure, but it's the calibration piece, and that's again just reiterating one of the things that we keep talking about, is that when you're on these one-on-one calls, for goodness sake, turn the webcam on. Yeah. Make sure that you can see the body language. Yeah. my wife and I can't share the full acronym, but you know, this lovely expression, fine. And she said, yeah, do you know what fine really means? And you know, it's effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. And you know, and if you ask somebody and they say that they're fine, you might well find that that's actually the response that they're getting.
Yeah, it's a good point. I know. I read a lot of books about psychology, and I find it very interesting because of, as I say, it's to improve yourself as not just an employee, but as a person, to your to your family, to your kids, and to sport, which I do. Mental is a massive component, and there's one part of a book which I read where somebody would ask, how are you today? And the answers most people saying, I'm okay. But when you dig down to it, that's generally a lead in terms of digging down to it. Just okay means, hey, something's going on there. And that's when, and I've been culprit of that. I come to work and in a really bad mood sometimes, and people say, how are you? It's like, yeah, I'm okay. Because of that, you have a guard, or you don't want to let your guard down, or you feel you're not quite ready to open up. But sometimes I really like to say, and you guys both say at the beginning, it's okay to say, I'm not feeling too good. And I think we sometimes need in these times say, yeah, I'm not the best today. Is it okay that, if I just have some time to work by myself? And then people say, yeah, fine, rather than your manager just push when you're not feeling okay. So I think it's okay to not feel okay, rather than saying I'm okay or I'm fine when we know that you're trying to kid. So it's being honest, and also opening up to your team and colleagues if you have a good relationship. And if you haven't, maybe it's the time to start it up, because we are all people, we are all humans, which you hear so time and time again with articles and people talking about these times. One of the things, I suppose, sticking on the topic of leadership, because leaders are lonely, and as Madeleine says, how do leaders get encouraged? A lot of things which I've been listening to and reading is that leaders, when they are struggling, and because they need to, if they're not on top of their game, the team's going to suffer, is that leaders get help, whether it be psychologists or a mindfulness coach. They get a coach. And I think that's the biggest thing that I suppose we're talking about, hence this podcast, that leaders don't have to do things by themselves. So Phil, you being a coach, if I was the leader of a team and I'm struggling, what are some of the benefits and that a coach brings to you, in terms of, it's not like a bad thing that, I'm going to see a psychologist or a coach. On a positive side, even if we don't have it, what are some of the sell your trade in terms of what does it bring from the coaches who have experience coaching, and for those who need it?
3 words: time to think.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. That's
what I'm going to say. A coach allows you to do better than anything else. They give you time to think. The great thing about the job that I do is I work with some wonderful, brilliant minds, brilliant leaders who have all of the answers to their problems, but what they don't have is time to think. And if I do anything else, I just give them the space to think. And most of them, all of them, can do what they need to do when they've given themselves the chance, the freedom to think about it.
Is it scary, Phil, when they walk into your room, into your video room? Coaches, do they have anything to be scared of? Like, I'm going to talk to Phil. He's going to judge me. Like, it's to spill some of these myths in terms of, Phil's going to ask me everything about me and then record everything back. How do you dispel some of these myths so that people feel comfortable?
Well, I mean, my mission is to help people be the best version of themselves that they can possibly be, and I make that as explicit as possible right from the get-go. As I say, I work with brilliant people, and my purpose is to help them be brilliant people. They have the answers. I give them the space to actually organize their thinking and to challenge, of course. I mean, there's absolutely, but again, there's nothing off limits. And so I think, you're creating that safe space. You do it relatively early on, and you do it in the preparation. You do it in the initial engagements. You do it making sure that, before you even get into the first session, you check the chemistry. And, I'm fortunate that I'd say 95% of the people that I've worked with, we got on with. There's 5% I didn't, and and that's okay. That's also okay, because when you enter in a relationship like this, a coaching relationship, that chemistry's got to be right. And if it isn't, you owe it to them as much as they owe it to you to actually say it for what it is.
I have to when I trigger this, when you're talking about now, you talk about the safe place, and I think that's really key in terms of course, like if Madeleine is having a tough day, that she can't go and spill the beans to her colleagues, because there's gossip. So sometimes you need that safe place in terms of, hey, I'm really stressed about. It could be like about your team, or about I've got too much on, which people feel like I'm not coping as a leader, which is a bad thing. Thinking back to the TV series, people have seen Suits. Either of you guys have seen Suits? Where and that's the thing, like I say, Lewis, who often go and see his psychologist and talk, and then so many times, he goes back in a really bad mood, that he's always the victim, that something is wrong. And then when the psychologist, as Phil says, gives him space to think and ask the questions, he comes out of it, goes, I have the answer. He goes, brilliant, yes, and comes back in a positive, happy man, have a decision. So it makes you decisive. And I think that's, even as a TV show, it's real, because of leaders as top lawyers, top anything. They need a coach. They need time to think. And sometimes the answers are in the questions that the coach gives to you, rather than you sitting there like, I can't deal with this. So people, if you and that's one strategy that we're going to start with is leaders, get a coach, or if not, ask for some coaching advice. Madeleine, what are some of the strategies that you do as a leader? Because you've talked about last year having back-to-back meetings, your time is so small. How do you manage stress, or how do you keep yourself in a positive mindset, as well as, you have a family as well. So what's some of the things that you do which works well?
Having a coach, to be honest. I have a coach, and I think that all leaders should have a coach. It's not Phil. I would love to have Phil, but I have another coach since many, many years. I think that gives you the distance that you need as a leader to be able to see clarity and to find the answers yourselves through the questions that she's asking. Yep. So exactly to what Phil says, to give you the opportunity to be the best leader that you possibly can. So that is one of my tools that I have. And I just would urge all leaders to do that if you don't have. And then in combination with exercise, for me, running and Thai boxing is my meditation. It's where I need to focus on something else. And when I'm done, sort of the answers comes back to me in the questions that I haven't solved.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. And I also like to say, I also have a coach, as I've talked about last year when I did this coaching course last year with Hinsa, which I say they provide performance coaches to a lot of the F1 drivers and also executives and corporates. And they say the coaching there, which I learned, not just about mental, one of the elements, and I'll put it in the show notes, the wheel that people remind themselves, is mental fatigue. And mindset is interrelated to sleep. If you have a bad sleep, you're going to get moody and you're going to have stress. Exercise, as you talk about, Madeleine, if you don't exercise enough, and we talk about, being at home all the time, but so often sitting at a desk, scrunched up, that's going to give you a negative outlook in terms of how you think. So if you're not stressed with work, other things that if one day you're in a bad mood, think about, am I sleeping okay? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I getting good sleep? And then other things importantly is, am I getting exercise? Am I getting outside? Am I getting fresh air? Am I switching off? So a lot of these things, it's not this, oh, I'm in a bad mood and blame your boss, because your boss isn't always the answer. It's the easy victim, or the weather, which I always blame the winter time and say I'm in a shitty mood because I hate the darkness in Sweden. Look for excuses, but it comes down to when you speak to your coach and they say, what's really going on with you? You say, well, I'm not happy with, being locked indoors, or I'm not getting that exercise. So I think, how about you talk about there, Madeleine, exercise and meditation, because that's another thing which a lot of coaches and a lot of successful leaders and corporates, they talk about mindfulness and meditation. And I'm not talking about like this type of stuff in terms of it's as easy as like the Headspace app or Calm app, where you just put your earphones in, sit on the couch, and follow meditation for 10 minutes. Have either of you guys tried meditation, or what's your reflection in terms of people who have tried it, or of people in terms of helping them? Madeleine, you say you tried boxing meditation, but have you tried things like Headspace or?
I do have Headspace installed on my iPhone. I should try it a bit more often. I was thinking when you were talking about this, that some of the key things, questions that I have started to ask my team is, have you had lunch today? Have you had a walk today? Just one of those basic things. And meditation is probably one of those that could be added to the list. Well,
exactly. Like just going for a walk in the woods, which I do a lot, is meditation. As Phil said earlier, having time to think. And that's where we talked about this last week, when some new habits we've all started this year. And Phil, you said that having time to think has been one of the things that you've done. And I'd just like to say one thing before I go to Phil. I was watching a interview with one of the top F1 leaders of the Mercedes Formula One team. I'm a big Formula One team, but also like how to know how top leaders are driven. An interesting thing is that this Toto Wolff, who's the head of the F1 team, 7-time world champions. He's flown back from Australia which is a 20-hour flight, and he said on one flight he did nothing besides just think. No TV, no reading, didn't touch the screen on the TV. He said, I spent the time to think to myself. And he said it's the best thing that, as a leader, to have time to yourself. And that's a really good observation in terms of leaders and just people. You need time to think. And social media isn't the time to think. Grabbing your phone when you have a 5-minute thing isn't the time to think. So I thought that was a really interesting revelation there, that when you're flying, or if you have things, switch everything off and just think, reflect, because it helps bring your stress down, but also think about how to improve yourself. Phil, what's your reflection on reflecting and looking at times to create for yourself to think and to meditate, or something similar?
Okay, well, 200,000 of my colleagues are Indian. Meditation is something that comes very much part and parcel of many of them. I'm blessed to have a couple of colleagues who are very, very good and have led us through meditation sessions. And the company actually has 2 sessions that you can dial into remotely every week, as well as stretch sessions, as well as fitness, box fit. And these are all online, and anyone can dial into them. They're on every week, and I think it's again just a great habit to get into. So I'm a massive fan of that. If I looked a little distracted just now, I was reading an article very recently talking about the absolute proliferation of the take-up of the Headspace and the car maps. I haven't got it myself, but it's incredible. They're amazingly popular. I think I think behind them, and behind a lot of what you've just been saying, is this whole piece about what am I in control of? Let me manage that. What am I not being in control of? You can't change the weather in Sweden. It is what it is. So you have a choice.
You can't control the darkness.
Yeah, exactly. You can't control the darkness, but you can control your attitude towards it.
Exactly.
As a great mate of mine said once, he said, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And I think that he hit the nail on the head. We're in these situations. How we choose to react to it is entirely up to us. The wonderful book by Viktor Frankl was the most stark example of that. The guy who survived the concentration camp at Auschwitz gives you a wonderful insight into how you can choose your own reaction to any situation that you find yourself in. Would recommend it unreservedly.
Excellent. And speaking of articles too, Phil, you when preparing for this session, you came across an article from the Harvard Review. Do you want to just talk about that one? Because there's a lot of things that people are skipping because of hurrying back and grab a sandwich, keep typing. Do you want to talk about that, because that's a really important thing about mental health?
Yeah. So I've just sent you through the link.
Harvard in the show notes.
Yeah, Harvard did a wonderful article very recently called Take Your Lunch Break. And you know what's behind it is pretty straightforward. Again, we need time to think. We need time to actually physically disconnect from these back-to-back meetings. He makes points about how few hours many people take off and how many extra hours everyone is working. One of the things it does do, is that it says, you know, make it a communal experience. But interestingly, the one thing that I wouldn't encourage is actually just having all of your colleagues on a Zoom call eating. There is something slightly unnerving about 7 or 8 mouths opening and closing on a video screen.
Exactly.
But what it does say is, you know, maybe once a week or once a month even, you know, do like a virtual book club. And you know, to bring your team in and have a communal event. And you know, if you had been in the canteen, you might be having your sandwiches, and you might chat about a book. So you know, exactly. Is there a good business book that you're recommending the team, Madeleine, say? And in a month's time, just, you know, plan a virtual book club hour to say, right, okay, we've all had a chance to read the book. What was the most interesting thing that you saw in it? One of the habits I got into when I've been delivering training is that you often accompanied the training with a book, and I'd give the book to the people at the end of the day, and I'd say, when you come back tomorrow, I just want you to share with the team one thing that you found in the book that interested you. It can be a line, it can be a diagram, it could be a chapter. I'm not going to force you to read any of it, but just come back with one interesting thing, and everyone can do that.
Yes, it's fantastic, this book club. That's one thing we haven't heard yet. We've talked about Zoom coffee and Zoom drinks, but a Zoom or just a virtual book club is brilliant. And speaking of books, I love this mental topic, both for sport and everything else. There's a couple of books I want to recommend to people because they are absolutely brilliant in terms of what they shared, and that could be for your Phil's new book club. There's this one here, which is called Mind Management. The Chimp Paradox. This is a psychologist for the Sky pro cycling team, as well as the British Olympic team. Excellent book about emotions and managing your brain, because as you say, Phil, like just reacting in impulse is our chimp brain. Just, you know, oh, somebody just got in my way in a car, I'm going to be angry, rather than saying, hey, is this really going to end my day? Super good book, highly recommend it. Another book for those who like us or haven't heard about Stoicism, The Obstacle is the Way. Absolutely brilliant book. You can see I've tapped it to the max. For people who go through adversity or challenges, which we all do at some point of our life. Excellent book, super easy to read, and it just makes in perspective in terms of, like, look at the negatives as a positive, in terms of behind every corner there's a new rainbow type of things. I'll put this in the show notes. Excellent book. And another book called Play. And I think we haven't talked about that, but another good thing about, you know, having a positive mindset is just playing. Look at kids. Do you ever see kids super stressed and really like shaking home? No, they're playing in the playground, smiling, laughing. And that's what this book talks about in terms of, as adults, we sometimes forget to play, as in like playing some sport, having some fun, watching a funny movie, playing some board games with our kids. We're always so busy with our phones and, you know, Instagrams and Snapchats, but having some fun to play.
I think, speaking of fun, Shaun, one of the topics that we should have in this podcast should be virtual team kickoffs, because now it's the beginning of the year, and how do we do it virtually? Because I've heard so many good stories now lately about teams kicking off virtually, so that would be interesting to share.
Brilliant, and we put that on to next week's list. Thanks for that, Madam, because I say we're almost running out of time, and there's a lot of things that I want to add to with this brilliant episode, because of it's so important, and we've only touched half of the things we prepared for. So let's put this kickoff as one there, because I remember that's what some of the funnest things I used to enjoy as in companies. You kick off, because of you meet new people, you get away from your screens, and you have fun. So let's put that on the list. So people have inspiration for kickoffs virtually. Madeleine's got your answer for next week. So we're almost out of no pressure. So we're coming back full circle. We're onto the weekend. We had the dragon christened. We're going to start driving for the weekend, Madeleine. What's you going to do some snowmobile burnouts up and down the street? What do you got planned for?
Oh yes, something like that. And the kids packed. Sorry, the car packed with kids and ice skating. We're going to go ice skating somewhere.
Awesome. Outdoors, I'm guessing, given that it's going to be minus 20.
Lots of lots of, on a lake, as we do here in Sweden.
Oh yeah, it's I live above the lake. It's probably frozen by now, so good thing. I might do some skating myself. Phil, lockdown village. What's I know it's the same as last week, but anything inspirational that you're going to do this weekend?
No, it'll just be lots of mud. Lots of mud and washing the mud off the dogs, and then lots of mud and washing the dogs again. So can't wait for the pubs to be open, but that ain't going to be for a couple of months yet. So more walking, more fresh air, meeting people, sharing some moments from a socially distanced point of view, and then more mud.
Exactly. Well, enjoy the mud fight. Enjoy the ice, Madeleine. Good luck with Dragon. Treat her nicely, and we'll see everybody back next week for part 2 of healthy mindsets for leading from home. Have a nice weekend.
Brilliant. You too.
Bye.